Hi everyone who's popping into the session. I can see the numbers sort of ticking up on the bottom of the screen there. My name's Nat. I'm from the BBC Academy and I'll be doing your Filming with Smartphone session today. And before we start the session, I just want to tell you a little bit about this week's event. It's organised by the Royal Television Society in the Midlands, with loads of events over the next few days and on all sorts of stuff. So if you fancy learning a bit more about anything to do with TV, have a look at the RTS website and I'm sure you'll find something for you. And thanks to the sponsor, National Film and Television School, who are really investing in developing filming talent across the UK. If you want to find more about today or any other of the sessions, just log in on the RTS website. It's rts.org.uk to find out more. So on to smartphone filming. I hope you all have your smartphones ready, whatever they are. I'm going to be using primarily an iPhone today, but all this stuff is applicable over Samsung's and any other sort of smartphone. We'll be concentrating mainly on the not the tech side, but actually the composition and how you film the photos and get the best out of your phone. Loads of them are really great, and you can get excellent pictures off them. So you don't need to invest in loads of really expensive kit. You can have a few bits and bobs and that will really make the difference and raise the level of your films and videos you make on your smartphones. So I'm going to start sharing a keynote presentation and we will take a look at we'll take a look at that. It's not coming up. So first of all, I hope you can see this now. Here we go. So how to film an interview on your smartphone. The first thing to say is you can get really good results very simply, very quickly. If you've got any questions throughout the session, please do put them in the little Q&A box. I will try and get through as many as possible. The thing about when you're filming with your smartphones, if you're filming pieces, vlogs, short films, whatever it may be, the one thing you've really got to use, you've got to film correctly, is an interview. If you do a shot and it's not correctly exposed, or a sequence and it's blurred because it wasn't in focus, you just don't use that. You don't use it in your final package and no one will ever know. But if you've got an interview, it is critical that it's looks good and you can hear it properly. The two things you can't fix when you're filming are sound and focus. Okay, so they're the two things we're going to concentrate on, and I will give you some tips on how to get the best out of those. With some very simple little tips, you can really make a big difference in your filming. Okay, so as you know, the BBC uses smartphones more and more. They are simple, they are light, you don't need loads of kit with them and you get really good results. You can get into places you just can't get into with a big camera. Okay, and almost everyone has one, which is always really handy as well. So if you're ever instructing anyone on how to send you footage, you want to send them things, you can cover these sort of tips that we're going to go over today. So always think first of all about where the video is for. Do you need it landscape or 16:9, so for TV or for a web platform, or are you going to put it on Instagram or Facebook? Because obviously that's going to influence the way you hold your phone, which way you hold the phone up. Some people automatically default to holding it portrait, while others hold it landscape. So really think about where do you need it for, or do you need it for all of them? If you need it for all of them, default, we always say hold it landscape. okay? Because you can always crop in on something, but you can't expand your pictures if you blow them up to and you film them portrait and you want to expand them to put on a landscape timeline. It's going to make everyone look short and fat, not good for anyone involved. Okay, so always film landscape, and you can crop in fairly simply for if you wanted it for Instagram or Facebook. So you're saving yourself 2 jobs. So you can shoot horizontal and then resize. And if you're filming a digital video, so it's for an online platform, a really simple down the lens bang in the middle of your screen is simple, it's easy, and it's usually the best way to go for digital because it's more personal, it's more intimate, you feel like you're having a one-to-one chat, slightly different from TV. If you're filming it from TV, for TV, this is more of a standard interview shot for the news or something like that. And if you wanted to then adapt this, you're filming for TV and you wanted to adapt it for an online platform, though obviously in an edit, you can do things to bring this interviewee more central. But if you're filming it primarily for digital platforms, down the line is fine. There are a couple of things you've got to remember about how you film it. One of the really critical things is the eye line. So you always want the eyes on this top third of the screen. If you imagine a noughts and crosses board on your phone screen, you want to have the eyes on that top third line. Okay, now you've got something to help you with that on your phone. Android also have this. This is how you get to it on an iPhone. So if you go into your camera settings, you've got something called grid, and you've got a switch. And you click that, make it go green, and you will get a grid, which looks like a noughts and crosses board on your camera screen. Which is really helpful. And we'll talk about how to use that and how to line it up in 1 second. But the primary thing to remember, if you want your interview to look good, it has to be lit. You must have light. Light helps the camera focus. It also makes the image much better quality. If the image is has lower light and it's not lit as well, that's when you start to get that grainy look. So, you know, it's like if you're filming and you're out at night or you're at a party and there's much dimmer light, that's when it starts to look grainy because the camera automatically sort of puts in artificial light, which doesn't look great. But when there's enough light, the camera will film in full HD and it will look good. Okay, so you've got to remember, back to the sun, or bum to the sun, we normally say. Bum to the sun, make sure the light is on your subject. They will be much better lit and it will make the camera work much better. So you've got to have the light on the face. You want to see those little dots of light in the eyes, makes people look lovely and alive, and you can empathize with them. If they're all black, they look like they've got the cold dead eyes of a shark. You don't want that. Okay, you want to really see the life in them, so you can they feel like they're really speaking to you from the screen. Okay, so this is the grid on your camera. Now, normally at this point, if I were live in the room with you, I would pick up, but what I'm going to do now is I am going to share my phone screen so you can see what I'm seeing. I don't have any live interviewees, unfortunately, to help me out today. What I am going to want to do is, I've got someone to help me, and it's a doll. So I've got Princess Sophia's here to help. Now it's not coming up there. Can you all see my phone screen, hopefully, if it will let me? Okay. So what we've got here is Princess Sophia, okay, because I haven't got a person to help me out, show you how to line up an interview. So she does have a face, so she will do. So people turn up to interviews, to do interviews all the time, so people don't think it's less professional. It's just sort of taken as standard nowadays. Lots of people film with iPhones. We do have sort of special BBC fluffies and things that you can use. This is a BBC camera app. I'm just using this because the normal iPhone app doesn't show very well over Zoom actually, but it does the same thing. Okay. So this is the grid I was talking about, the one you've switched on your phones. Samsung does the exact same thing. If you go into the camera settings and you switch on your grid, it's there. Okay. So what you want to do is you want to line up your face with the eyes on that top third line. Okay, and it doesn't matter how far or how close you get, you want the eyes on the top third. Standard interview framing, eyes on the top third, and you cut off, because particularly if you're doing something for digital or online, you need space around the subject to put some captions or subtitles or whatever you're doing. So you don't want to be too tight, because then you'll be plastering words all over her mouth or chin. And if you're too tight, we're filming this horizontally. If we cropped in, you see sort of around that middle third, you can sort of see if I put a different grid on, that's how it'd look if I was cropping in to make this for Facebook or Instagram. You can see you'd be chopping right into a face. So just be careful that your shots aren't too close. Okay, so that's probably a decent shot. You normally cut off just above the chest, eyes on the top third, and always make sure she's lit. So I can see those nice sort of beads of light in her eyes there, and she's well lit. And that will mean I can get a better focus. Now, to get a better focus on your iPhone, you want to do something. You see, if I move it, the shot gets lighter and darker depending where I'm looking on the phone. What you want to do is something called locking the focus and exposure. So if you tap on your phone, you probably notice you get the square. So that shows you where the iPhone thinks I want to film and look at, and it's exposing and focusing on that thing. But if I use my finger and tap and hold like that, I get that banner called AEAF lock. And that's just the auto exposure, auto focus lock. And that means that it's not going to do what we call ramp when, if I move the camera around or someone comes past in the background. Sometimes in filming, you call it the white van effect. So if a white van comes across in the background now, if it wasn't on auto exposure lock, the camera automatically thinks there's much more light in the shot, and it makes my subject's face darker. Okay, because it tries to, the way the camera works is it basically adds up all the light it can see and divides, it makes an average of what it thinks it should be in the shot. So it sees all the white pixels, sees all the black pixels, and thinks, it's probably, I'll expose it at this. So you want to lock it. You always expose for the face. You want the face to be correctly exposed no matter what else is in your shot for an interview. But the way to guarantee and have the most control about that is to use the auto exposure or auto focus lock. Okay, so if you want to get rid of the lock, you tap away from it, but you tap and hold, and you can see that banner AEAF lock. Now, what I could do is now I've got the AEAF lock on, I can tap and hold that little sun on the screen and pull it up and down and make it lighter and darker. Okay, so I've got a little bit more control over the light, but ideally should be in perfect light to start. So when I click the AEAF lock, it's perfectly exposed. Okay, so you can see that and do that, and then the shot looks much better. Now, ideally, obviously, if you're in an interview situation, what you're going to need is a tripod. If you're interviewing someone who's sitting down or in a situation where they're still, you don't want to be sort of rocking around like this. Makes everyone a bit seasick when they're looking. So you might need a little tripod. I've got a very little tripod here. You can see this is like £2 or something, just off the internet. Very simple, but it does the trick, because actually I can put it on tables and I can put it on top of things. I've actually got a tripod that looks like a beanbag that's really handy for when you're out and about, and you can put it like on the top of fences and stuff. But do have a tripod, because if you're filming someone who's still, or shots that are still, you need to be still. If you're filming something, someone that's walking or action, you can get away with a lot more, and a little bit of movement, won't hurt, and you won't notice it. But if you're filming someone who's still, then you notice the movement. The other thing is you'll notice how much people move when you talk, when they talk, when you're interviewing them. It can be sort of quite a little bit of a sort of uncomfortable situation, and you'll notice how people move, people swing. Don't ever interview anyone in a wheelie chair, for example. Some people rock, like they rock backwards and forwards on their toes when they talk, and you might have to tell them to stop. If they're wearing sunglasses, generally ask them to take them off. And just check the light is okay if people are wearing glasses, so you don't get glare, so you can see them, you see their eyes properly. Okay, so when you've lined up their eyes like that, and then you can film and get ready to film. Now you can see from the top of my screen that it's filming at 1080p. You also, what you need when you go filming on your phone is a lot of space on your phone. Most people don't clear out their phones, and they don't have enough space. Okay, you're gonna need, even for just an interview, you want to have plenty of room, because it's not just an interview. You're going to want to get shots and cutaways, different b-roll or whatever it is. So you need plenty of room. So always make sure you've either got you can get a portable plug-in drive, or you can send some stuff to the cloud, or however you want to do it, because you really need to be able to have enough room and freedom to film. There's nothing worse. Something happens, you pick up your phone to go to film something and it says camera roll full, then you're scuppered. Okay, so make sure you've got enough space. But the other thing you can do, if you really need to, and it is for a digital platform, you can downgrade the quality that you film at. So here it says 1080p. In your camera settings, you can also downgrade to 720, which is good enough for a lot of social media. So that will give you slightly more space. Okay, obviously the quality is not as good, but that's the compromise. Okay, you can see the other thing here is that the background is slightly blurry, and that's because of the separation between the subject and the background. Okay, if I am really close to her and I focus on her face here, you can see that the flowers in the background are all blown out. Okay, but what you need to get a blurry background, which is a look that some people really like, they think it looks a bit more pro. I would argue, if you're doing an interview, just make sure the face is in focus. That's your primary concern. Don't get sucked into being obsessed about doing the background, getting this sign here, you want to be able to see this, because actually it can be a lot harder than you think. But what you really need to get a blurred out background is actually separation, because separation between the person who's filming and the interviewee from their background. Okay, and that's how you get that. That's the only thing you need really to get a blurry background. And also, if it's really bright, you have much more trouble getting a blurry background as well. So if it's a little bit shadier or darker, then it's easy to get a blurry background. That's all you have to do. And if you can see, because you see a lot of interviews, people sitting on the couches looking at the walls, and when they're right next to the background like this, you see it's in focus, but you can see the picture on the wall there is blurry. Okay, so you can still get that sort of blurry background effect. Just all you need is a bit of separation. Okay, now the other thing you need when you are filming is a microphone. Okay, you need to get good sound. Like I said before, the two things you can't fix, focus and sound. So you really need a microphone. Now you can see in this BBC Camera app that I have got a little green bar that is going up and down, which shows me I'm getting sound in. Now, this doesn't tell me the sound mix. I'd need to listen to that. So it might also be handy to have a little splitter so you can hear the sound, as well as plug in a mic to the phone. Be careful if you're going to get a splitter, I would say. Anything where you need extra little bits of wires gives you a chance to go wrong, basically. I've come across a few people who haven't plugged them in correctly. You've really got to make sure they're well plugged in and they pop in, and you are getting the sound through and you can hear and the microphone is picking up, because I've had people come back with no sound at all, and then it'd be much better to take a chance and do it on the iPhone microphone. And if you're close and you're in a quiet room, that will be fine. If it's really busy or noisy, you're much better with a microphone. And actually, you're much better with a microphone on something like your iPhone headphones or your smartphone headphones. They will work really well. They cut out a lot of background noise, just like they do when you're on the phone. Okay, so what you can actually do is you can take your headphones out and give them to the person, or pop them inside of the coat. Make sure this actual microphone bit here is make sure the microphone bit is facing the right direction and is pointing at them and you can hear them okay. It actually does really, really well. Okay, so it's much better than having nothing at all if you're in a pinch. And actually you get surprisingly decent quality from your iPhone headphones. So that's good to know. Okay, so you've got your sound, you've got your focus, you've framed it. Now, where is your person looking? Now, obviously, if this is for digital, you'd want them in the middle. If it's for TV, you'd have them a bit more over this way. You can either have them on this third or that third. Either way, you want them turned into the shot and looking here. This side is what we call the looking room. Okay, so if you're having them there, that's fine. You want to look through that way. So they need to be turned into the shot so they don't go awkward shoulders or this way. So whichever way you want them. So this is for digital, so it'll be straight down the barrel. And then you're good to go. And you've checked the sound. You want to make sure your focus is locked. Okay. And the other thing you want to make sure of, top tip, is put your camera in airplane mode. You don't want to get a call. You don't want to get a notification when you're halfway through filming. It might kill your momentum or just people off, or actually just makes you look a little bit unprofessional. So you don't want to do that. So my camera is already in airplane mode. And hopefully you'll be on a tripod as well to keep it nice and steady. If you do have to hold it, because sometimes it's much nicer to get a clip of someone doing the thing they are doing. So just make sure you've got your elbows quite tight into your body, and you can really keep it quite still, or you can lean against something. And if she's in the kitchen, if she's a chef and she's chopping stuff, then you can maneuver around and you can actually hold it quite steady. Always be sure, never zoom in. Okay, so you can see the more you zoom in, it magnifies the shake actually. So I'm barely moving, but you can still see the camera's moving quite a lot there. If you want to zoom into something and you're on an iPhone, walk closer to them. That's it. But you can see I've zoomed out there, fully zoomed out, and it looks like a much steadier shot. Okay, and that's just me holding it. So just don't zoom in when you're filming someone. It can be really nice if you want to see if she's dancing and you want to get close up of her feet, or if she's cooking or she's making something and then you want to see her hands like that. Just go closer. Don't use the digital zoom. Plus, then you're also degrading the quality, so you're limiting your options in the edit. Okay, so we've got the interview. It's great quality. It looks good. I can see some questions popping up, so let me just take a look. When you frame the picture, It doesn't matter about chopping the top of the head off as long as the eyes are in the right place. You can have a looser shot, but you'd still put the eyes on the top. So it just depends how close or how far away you are from the interviewee. It's much, you know, when you get a nice tight shot of the face, that looks really good. You reduce reflection in glasses if you've got the light sort of gleaming off the glasses by changing the direction they are to the light, basically. So you don't really want someone bang in front of the sun, say this is my hand is the sun. You don't want the sun sort of there. You want them really 45 degrees to the light, and hopefully then the glare on the glass shouldn't be too bad. If the light's coming right at them, then I mean, your interview is going to be squinting, which is not good, and will, you know, probably be very distracting for them. But you just have to sort of move your interviewee. Always keep them sort of facing the light-ish or an angle to the light. You can have light on one side of the face. It actually can look, you know, really nice. So you can have the light coming on this side or that side. If they're straight down the barrel and they're right in the middle, I mean, you can see here on Princess Sophia, for example, the light's coming in from this direction here, and she doesn't look too bad. It can actually be much more flattering rather than, you know, you might look like you're in a makeup advert and you look all washed out. You're right, this is a tiny tripod. This is a tiny tripod, and I use this to just put on stuff. It's really light, just to literally keep things still. So I can put it on a table or a pile of books or whatever, and it's just really small. I can put it in my bag and it's good to go. I actually hook it over fences. I've used this for all sorts. I've got a full-size tripod because ideally you need the camera to be the same height as your interviewee. In fact, what you would really like is like slightly higher and tilted down ever so slightly. If you think about those red carpet events where everyone looks at the cameras and the photographers and they're all sort of clamoring for attention, no one's looking up at a camera like that because it's not a very flattering angle. You can see from the way I do this. Everyone looks down because it looks more flattering, which is why all the ladies sort of look down and probably over a shoulder as well, because it's a bit more flattering. Okay, so you always need the camera to be ever so slightly, and I'm talking about an inch and like a tiny bit of tilt, just because it's more flattering, that's all. But if nothing else, you want it at the same height, so you want the camera as the same height of your interviewee. Also remember, if you're filming and you want someone to look down the camera, you need to tell them where to look. You know, an Android phone quite often has the camera right in the middle of the phone, but here on an iPhone the camera's on the top right, at the top right as they look at it. Yeah, just check at the top right as they look at it. So you need to tell them to look at the lens, otherwise they can look like they're looking slightly off camera, which is a little bit strange. So you need to make sure you tell them where to look, because you don't want them to look like they're looking just past you if they're supposed to be looking down the camera. So you want to tilt the camera slightly down, so not up, because that's an up the nose shot, not good. Chin, nostrils, not good for anyone. You want to look slightly down, okay? Tilt slightly down on them, much more flattering, okay? Just think, you don't want to see nose hair or double chin. No one wants that, okay? So then you're good to go with your interview, and your microphone is good, your focus is good, you've got your AE lock on, press and hold, okay, and you're good to go. You can see the sound ticking up and down. Very nice. Right. Okay, so once you've done your interview, and as well, a lot of the thing, especially if you're filming on iPhone or you're filming for digital video, you want your person to be relaxed, you want them to come across really well, you want them to be authentic. So you might need to do a bit of chatting before. One of the hardest things to do with all interviews, with all filming, is actually bossing the situation. Okay, so you need to be chatty, you need to make them relaxed, but also you need to be thinking, right, the lights over here, I don't want to there. I don't want to sit them on the couch and see like the ducks on the wall in the background. That's going to look rubbish, not good for anyone. You don't want a really light background. or white in the background, because no one looks great up against a white wall. It'll make the face look much darker. If I use the back of this picture actually to show you, you can see if I put white at the back of Sophia, the camera makes the shot much darker. As if I take it away, it looks a bit better. So you don't want anyone on a really bright white background. You want just make sure that whoever you're interviewing is lit. If they're lit, that's fine. They'll look great. Okay, it will focus better. It will help a lot more. So once you've chatted and you've done your interview, they've been relaxed, they've been really normal and, you know, spoken really normally and nicely, and that's great. And hopefully you're listening all the time to what they're saying, because what you want to do, you want to be able to get shots to illustrate what they're talking about. So you want to get a sequence, and a sequence basically are shots of one continuous action. Okay, so Princess Sophia is working in a kitchen. She is chopping some food. Okay, so I'm going to need like a close-up of the hands. But what you want for all these shots, you don't want them all from the same place. You've got a real tendency when you go out filming to just go, right, okay, wider shot, closer shot, you know, shot down here, shot up there, and they're all sort of from the same plane. You know, move your camera around. Basically, if you're not puffed out when you've been filming, you're doing it wrong. Okay, so if she's dancing, or she's in the kitchen, or whatever it is, you need to get down on the floor. She's dancing, you want to see her feet. If she's chopping in the kitchen, I want to get in close and, you know, see her hands. I want a nice close-up of her face, not at the same plane that I was filming the interview at. You want to see her, always make sure you can see the eyes. If she's looking down and reading a book, let's see if I can tilt her down, you know, I want to make sure I can see her eyes from wherever I am, so I will get down and tilt and do that. So you've got to always think about different ways to get these shots of sequence. Now, when you come to edit it, you're not going to use them all because it would be terribly boring. But it gives you options. You need, if the only thing you remember is get tighter shots, get close-ups, and get further away shots. Okay, so, you know, if you can use something to film through like this, and I can make sure that she's the subject of it, and you can create a frame in your shot. So they do this for all the time, for example, Homes Under the Hammer. Because how do you make 20 million front doors interesting? Well, a lot of the time they just film through the bushes. Okay, so it's those shots, and use the sort of foliage as a natural frame. You're always trying to think how to make a shot more interesting. So what can you do? Okay, so you need sort of closer shots, tighter shots, and further away shots. Okay, and at different angles, different heights, different planes. So what you say normally for a sequence, close up of the hands or the action, close up of the face, a mid shot, which is basically hands and face in the same shot, an over the shoulder shot, so I can see what she's doing. So if she's arranging these flowers, for example, I might just get a shot where she's, move her arm, what's Sophia? You know, she's doing that, and I can get her in focus, or I can get the flowers in focus, and do that. And then something else, so I might get it down, I might get it from sort of high up, I can see what she's doing from up here, you know, whatever it is. But you need to think about the sort of shots. And it's quite nice before you go out, if you're going to film, have a shopping list of shots of things that you want to get. Okay. I'm going to show you just a quick roundup of a sequence.
Now I want to get a sequence of Adam feeding the pigs. So I'm just having a little think quickly about what I might need. He's obviously going to feed them from all this apple pulp here. So I want some close-ups of that. He's going to feed the piglets, so I want to make sure he gets nice close-ups of that. I want lots of shots of them eating. But I'll also get a nice big wide of this lovely landscape, and that'll get me out of jail. You know, it gives me something else to cut away to, so that, you know, we can change the scene or give it a nice finish. Go for it. This is some apple pulp. So I know I need loads of these shots of Adam, just with the apple feed and the apple.
This is some apple pulp. It's what's left over after a mate of mine crushes the apples to make juice.
All right, put it back again, Adam.
With the main action covered, I need to think about cutaways.
Cutaways are vital. You not only need them to help you tell your story, but you also need them to give you options in your edit and make your sequence visually interesting and dynamic. Always make sure you get the shot of what's been talked about. So Adam talked about apple feed, so I know I need to get lots of shots of apple feed and piglets eating apple feed. Those shots are going to be used a lot to cover that bit of sync from Adam. Adam, let's get you to do, I'm going to do a big wide of that as well.
Yeah.
So you don't actually need to film too much pulp if you think they've had enough. But you just give them a bit more. I'm just going to get a really big wide. I'll give you a big cue, a big action when we're ready to roll. Okay, Adam. I find it helpful to think about a beginning, a middle and an end to each sequence.
So I've started by setting my scene.
This is some apple pulp. It's what's left over after a mate of mine crushes the apples to make juice. And the pigs absolutely love it. It's about 7% protein, really good feed. There you go, girls.
Once the subject matter, apple pulp, has been introduced and established, it's time for some cutaways. Then I have enough footage which will be used for Adam's additional voiceover, which will give more details about the apple feed. And I've ended with some satisfied customers.
Sort of the theory and the practice from how to get the different shots. So you've got your interview shot, you have got your sequence shots, and then any other shots you could get are total bonuses. And hopefully you'll have lots of choice, lots of options when you come to your edit. And you can see there what was happening in there. One of the hardest things is just keeping your interviewee constantly informed about what you're doing. Just chat away to them and keep them relaxed and saying, right, I need you to do this, or maybe could you do that again for me, please? Just make sure you can get everything you need, and because you're going to make them look better, which is why a lot of the time when you're filming TV, digital packages, whatever it is, it can be a much more lengthy process. So the more planning you can do beforehand really makes the whole job much more simple. If you know exactly what you want them to say, you've got that crystal clear point, sort of a headline, if you like, for your piece, and you can get all the shots you need, you've got them written down, you line them up and you go and do it. Now, if something else happens, great, because you've prepared enough to know that this is the best option. Whereas if you're just constantly running around filming everything frantically, you can sometimes miss the point a little bit. Just be careful as well. If there's lots of stuff happening, you need to hold the camera still for long enough. A standard shot on a timeline is sort of 3 seconds-ish, maybe a bit longer or a bit shorter, depending what's happening in the shot exactly. But keep the camera still and let stuff happen in front of you. Don't chase all over from it, because then it's really hard to cut from. And just make sure you've got a nice, really good still 5 seconds at least. Now, what you normally say is count to 10, because people go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You know, but keep the camera still. You need at least sort of a really clean 3 seconds, still clean 3 seconds, okay? And don't try and sort of move around all in between times. I'll quickly have a look in your questions, make sure there's anything else. For microphones and lights, you can get some really decent, really cheap. They don't need to be really, really expensive. And you plug them in, they're line-in mics. If you just Google iPhone mics or smartphone mics, there's a plethora. Okay, there's loads, and they're actually really decent. One thing I would say is make sure you get one with a longer lead, because you want to have the option of being, if you're going to have a lead, further away from someone. If you're, you could splash out and get a radio mic, that's lovely, and then you can be as far away as you like. But they're much more expensive. So, sort of the sort of more budget end, Just make sure you get a line in, or an iPhone mic, or a DSLR mic, or what, you know, whatever you want to call it. There's loads available, and they don't need to be expensive. And any light, I'm using a light here that was very, very cheap. It was about £12, and it's an LED light. You can have different color temperatures on it, you know, and they, again, just Google them. There's lots available. But instead of thinking about the kit, just really concentrate on the composition of your shots, where the light is, really basic things, light, camera, sound, and where you are putting the camera. That will give you much better results. If there's nothing else, I think we're sort of out of time. But if there's any quick questions, I can take them now. If not, good luck, all the best. Just remember to stay calm and really sort of chat to your interviewees and put them at ease. And you, instead of concentrating on all the technical things, just think about what's in front of you, what you can see in front of you. And the more experience you can get, the better. Good luck.